Hey, Albert here with another video on the bench. Now I've got the Joust board set. Again, this is for a customer of mine, Dave, who sent in a Moon Patrol, Joust, and a Robotron, all with linear power supplies, and I've got everything wrapped up. This is the last video. So again, these were both the Robotron and the Joust were Rev B boards, and I had to do the mod where I got rid of the wires on the top for the BSBA inversion. I make a little tiny board that goes on the back of a 7400 series IC, a 14 pin and it has a single 7404 inverter on it to do that inversion for the logic flip for the blitters. So let me switch over to the bench cam. We'll go over the boards, what I did, and then we'll do some gameplay and wrap this one up. So let me switch over to the bench cam. There we go. So again, here you can see on the power supply, kind of like the Robotron video, it's got the nice green LEDs on it, socketed voltage regulators. I think these may be new voltage regulators on this one. We've got the 10-turn pot for the 5 volt to get real precision adjustment there. All new Molex headers. All the fuses were pulled, checked. I think a few of these were the wrong values. I put in the correct ones. I clean all the ends with red Scotch Brite pad. Maybe it's a maroon. I'm not sure what color. I think we always refer to it as a red. It's like a burgundy. And then I do recrimp all of these uh, fuse holders, so you have to use a lot of force to get them in because sometimes they're just wore out where the fuses almost fall out of there. So, and then we've got a new large bridge rectifier for the 5 volts and a custom heat sink. We've got a new bridge rectifier for the 12 volt. We've got a new bridge rectifier here for the minus 5 volt, and then again all the filter caps going across the minus 5 volt regulator here. I put a heat sink on. Made sure I think a couple of the heat sinks on these SCRs for the overvoltage protection were missing, and I have spares, so I put those on. Anyway, cleaned up real nice, and back on the heat sink here with the power transistors. The front one here is a 6057 or 59 typically for the 5 volt, and then the back one is a 2N3055 for the 12 volts. I pull them, clean them, check all the wiring. I put new Molex connector with the trifurcon pins on it with a polarizing key so you can't plug it in backwards. And typically we'll put a couple tie wraps if needed to clean up the harness a little bit. And then I put new sill pads underneath the transistors, which are great. These are really good at conducting the thermal portion of the heat, but isolating electrically. So they're really good compared to the old mica and dielectric grease and all that kind of stuff that's real messy. So it's definitely the way to go there. And then just to show you here, here's a bag of parts. I mean, they're this is just, I don't know, probably 5 pounds worth of parts in here. So a lot of this is all the big caps from the old three power supplies and all the Molex headers and just old battery holders are in here. You name it, all the stuff's in here. There's a socket actually on the MPU. I'll show you that I put a new socket for the CPU. And then soundboard here. Again, this is Joust. So all new Molex headers, all new electrolytic caps. Fuses are new. Bridge rectifier's new. Pulled the socketed chips, cleaned the legs. This one was missing the correct ROM label. I make a reproduction one here for Sound ROM 4 for Joust. Got that all cleaned up. It looks real good. I put some tantalums in 3 locations where some decoupling capacitors were at. Originally they were electrolytic aluminum cans. And then back here on the ROM board was pretty clean. Again, I pull all of the socketed components, including the blitters here, the special chips. We've got new filter caps here, Nichicons. We've got all new Molex headers on the board, new ribbon cable, all 3M parts, I/O board. Tested all 18 inputs with the splat board set. We've got new ribbon, new filter cap, and the 2 new 10-pin Molex headers, as I mentioned. And then back here on the MPU, we've got all 3 Molex headers replaced with new square pins. The filter caps are new. Soft start 22 microfarad is new. I put a tantalum here. Originally it was an electrolytic. I did get rid of those bodge wires on the top. I told you I put a little tiny board on the back of the IC over here. Got the battery holder removed, the old one for the double A's, and we've got the CR2450 installed, which works great. I'm trying to think if there was any smoking gun on this board. The socket here for the CPU was one of these white old Molex ones that are pretty chintzy, so I put a new uh, old stock, really high quality socket in there. Pulled the blitters and the CPU clean, straightened the legs. got those wrapped up. So everything ran for at least 48 hours on the bench. So we're gonna switch over and do a little gameplay, and I'm gonna power off the board here so we can see it boot up. Let me switch over. There we go. Again, that's just artifacts on the screen that you're seeing there. I can, if I unplug the video connector, we could probably get those to disappear here if I monkey around with it. So let's see. Sometimes it will. There it goes. See. But in any case, when I boot it up, it'll get new data. There's a carpet pattern or rug pattern. It's testing the RAM. Let me get the PlayStation controller. I just loaded the config from Robotron to Joust for this. I tried playing with it. One interesting thing here on my FPGA cat box, if you notice the high score there, number one is Lon, 999999. And that's the Joust master, Lonnie McDowell? Oh, McDonald, I think. Sorry, Lon. Um, in any case, he traveled the whole country, maybe went out of country playing Joust games, and he would sign the marquees, and he's got definitely the world record for doing that. It's really cool stuff. But somebody sent me a board. They were really worried about losing that because he came to his house and played it, and I dumped the CMOS RAM. I have the ability to read it out and store it as a file, a binary file. And then I reached out to him and said, hey, I get people sending me Joust boards, and would it be okay if I loaded, that profile with your high score? And he was all in favor of it. So he approved it. And so sometimes the boards come in and the battery was missing and there's nothing on it, or somebody specifically asked, I do have the ability to put that in the high score table. And with that CR2450 on there, it would persist a long time. And, maybe after 4 or 5 years, you think you just want to change that battery out. What I'd recommend doing is, boot the game, have it running, and then just change the battery while the game's running. You don't have to worry about losing anything that way. So game's clearly booted into track mode. So I'm going to coin it up here. Got the controller. We'll do some flapping. I've got the little right button. I don't know what that guy's doing up there. He's pretty Oh, got me. All right, I'll drop into diagnostics here. All ROMs are good. No RAM errors. No CMOS errors. We'll loop through some sounds. And again, when it gets to 6, it'll just loop back to 1. Yeah. And then we'd switch test. Again, I did test all 18 inputs on that board in case someone ends up swapping this board to a different compatible game. Then we know they all work. But here's move left, move right, flap, player 1 start, right coin, move 2 left, move 2 right. I might have had another one in there. I'm not sure if I had flap for player 2 mapped anywhere, but this is where we test the color RAM, and you'll see 3 intensities for red, and you'll get 3 intensities for green, and then 2 intensities for blue. And then it'll just loop here and back to red. And then we get the grid lines where you would set the convergence on the monitor. Again, most people don't use these. They use a little handheld TPG test pattern generator. And then we get solid red, solid green, solid blue, then color bars. And then we get bookkeeping data. And then, again, some of this time in minutes played and all that was part of that CMOS save that I had from somebody else's board. And then over here, we've got the game adjustments or your configuration or settings where you can set free play and, all the different attract messages if you want, Joe's Arcade or when this, Dave's Arcade you could put on this one. So, and then back to track mode. So, again, it's got plenty of burn-in time on the bench, so I'm going to power it down and get everything in nice pink anti-static bags and boxed up. packed real nice, and we'll get it coming back to the customer. So thanks for watching the video. Keep an eye out for the next one.